Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined by sweet Seanza Kovacs from the internet.
The Wolverine.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and you won't catch me going to Japan right now.
Not right now, you won't, because no one can go anywhere. But we have gone to the past a little bit. Surprisingly, we've gone through, we're coming up on 7 years here at HMP, and for whatever reason, we have not covered the Wolverine. Our show started in 2014. The Wolverine was out in 2013. And for some reason, lo these many years, it's never crossed our radar. So we finally get
Maybe because it's completely forgettable? Maybe.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll see about all that kind of good stuff. But before we do that, we do want to say a big, giant thank you to everyone who helped support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. There you get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, the Dinger Zone. And we'd like to just thank you guys. Thank you so much for helping out the show and everything. And if you'd like to do that, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. And not only do you get that stuff, you also get to vote on what we're going to watch this month. And we got an extra week this month, an extra Monday this month to drop another episode. So we'll be doing that week after next. So keep an eye out for that, patreon.com/HMP. Well, let's do it, boys. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for The Wolverine.
I've been trying to find you for over a year. It's an honor to meet the Wolverine.
That's not who I am anymore. For many years, I have wanted to thank you for saving my life. But I didn't send for you only to thank you, Logan. I wanted to repay you. A gift to equal the life you gave me. You have struggled long enough. I can end your eternity. Make you mortal. What they did to me, what I am, can't be undone. Don't be so sure. Not healing. What the hell is happening?
Alrighty, that was the trailer for The Wolverine. I don't know. This might have some sort of comic book thing in it. Let's figure it out, shall we?
Time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us this week? A plethora of things to choose from, I would imagine.
Well, the first time Wolverine had his own comic was in 1982. And the crazy part about it was that it was intended to simply be a 4-issue miniseries. And the reason I say it's crazy is, of course, because Wolverine was found to have a superpower beyond his healing factor. He had a superpower shared by DC's Batman, and that, of course, is the power to sell comic books. That 4-issue miniseries morphed into an ongoing series that has at least 6 volumes with over 300 issues plus 11 annuals. And if you do the math, it works out to around 9 issues a year for that 4-issue miniseries. Now, that first 4-issue story arc is still considered one of the 2 seminal Wolverine stories, with the other being Old Man Logan. And the story of that first 4 issues is heavily influenced the story of 2013's The Wolverine. Now, in that OG miniseries, Wolverine returns to Japan to find his long-lost love, Mariko Yashida, after all his letters to her get sent back. Wolverine ends up fighting a bunch of ninja, and he hooks up with an assassin named Yukio, who is also on a quest to save Mariko. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that the creative team was writer Chris Claremont, because it was X-Men in the 80s, and artist Frank Miller, because Japan and ninjas. But what I found interesting was the behind-the-scenes story of this high-profile collabo. I mean, who could think that a couple of legends with pendulous baby makers the size of a well-fed ball python, who would think they could work together so well? Well, the legend goes that writer Chris Claremont and writer-artist Frank Miller came up with the basic idea while sharing a cab at San Diego Comic-Con. Perhaps that backstory isn't as interesting as my earlier comment suggested. I feel like I overpromised and under-delivered on that nugget. But if you doubt the influence that miniseries had on James Mangold's film, just know that issue 1 starts with Logan hunting and killing a rampaging bear in the Canadian wilderness, finding out it was hit with a drug-laced dart, then hunting down and beating up the hunter who fired it. Silver Samurai is also a character important in both The Wolverine and Wolverine, but his first comic appearance wasn't battling Wolverine, but instead he first started out battling against the 1978 cast of Saturday Night Live. Because he appeared in an issue of Marvel Team Up in which Spider-Man teamed up with the 1978 cast of Saturday Night Live. And though I haven't read the comic, I imagine Lorraine Newman had some slick kung fu skills to unleash while John Belushi brought out his Samurai Futaba character and Garrett Morris shouted, "Look, I'm dressed like Ant-Man." Now, the images are so real in my head, I don't even really need to read the comic. But the original Silver Samurai was a Japanese mutant who uses his powers to charge his katana and wears a samurai-style armor made of silver metal. He is the illegitimate son of Lord Shinjin, which makes him the half-brother of Mariko. So, though not her grandfather as depicted in the movie, a blood relation no less. Viper, the menace at the heart of the Wolverine film, is formerly known as Madam Hydra in the comics and is as much an Avengers villain as an X-Men opponent. So I was always surprised she was in the movie because this movie was made in the Fox era and that same character showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. prior to Disney's Fox acquisition. And I just don't always understand how these rights work. It's like the whole Quicksilver thing. How can he be in both cinematic worlds? But in the comic, Viper has no superpowers, but the Wolverine seemed to turn her into a mutant, so maybe that's the workaround. In the Age of Apocalypse storyline, Viper was married to the Silver Samurai, so I guess using that version of reality, one could easily justify her role in the film. Also, if we're being completist, it's worth noting that in the wonderful 1998 made-for-TV movie starring David Hasselhoff, Andrea von Strucker uses the Viper name, so perhaps that is the challenge which lies before us. To determine if the Viper given us by the Wolverine is as satisfying as that which Nick Fury and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have offered for our consideration.
So what you're saying is whether or not Hugh Jackman is Wolverine shouldn't be the most prescient thing in our mind going forward.
It's all about Viper.
I get that. That makes a lot of sense.
You Viper.
That's a great thing that people don't call anybody a Viper anymore. That's not a colloquialism that's caught on in the 21st century. That's a shame.
You're a member of the family Kuberday.
So everyone knows, well, at least recently, everyone was very, very much enamored with Logan, the last movie from James Mangold in the X-Men universe here. But a lot of people forget about this one in 2013, that he kind of started this off as well. This was where he was just coming in to that superhero landscape and everything. And it was interesting rewatching this because I hadn't seen it in a long time. What was your guys' memory of it? Because I remembered really liking it and thinking this was going to be a pretty good rewatch.
I remember thinking at the time that this is a good movie for what it is, that it's a nice R-rated kind of action movie. Definitely came away thinking, thank goodness it's not more of the X-Men Origins Wolverine kind of thing. But I also feel like from some direction, maybe I was giving it more credit than it deserved at the time.
For me, first of all, Hugh Jackman is a treasure. I mean, he's just a gem. And it's just I'm going to miss him as Wolverine for sure. He's easily the best part of this movie. I remember not liking it. I remember thinking that it was far superior to Wolverine Origins, that trash heap.
I think that may have been why I liked it as much as I did, because that last one was
I'm
so
pretty sure
god awful.
that this movie got a complete pass just because it was capable. It was a capably made movie. But it's also easily forgettable. The things that I remember about this movie were the Silver Samurai and the dumb Viper character. And that was basically all I remembered, and that Wolverine was in Japan. That's all I remembered about it. Everything else just fell by the wayside. And and I remembered that he lost his power, because this was the movie where I was like, I guess just in every single superhero sequel, it's always going to be that they lose their power.
Yep.
Well, James Mangold really likes to roll with that theme, because that shows up again in Logan.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if either of you guys can think of another movie trilogy, not just comic books, but any movie trilogy that's had the weird kind of trajectory that the trio of Wolverine films have had.
Well, from where
the first one is the worst.
Let's be nice and say it's terrible.
Yeah, there never should have been a sequel, but the third one is Academy Award worthy. Like, usually you get like the Stallone trajectory where Rocky is Academy Award material, but by the time you get to Rocky 3, we're just cashing checks.
It's just really great, and then he goes to 5 and it's the worst movie ever made.
Yeah, but even 3 is good, but nobody's nominating that for an Academy Award. You know what I mean? It's a crowd pleaser.
Yes.
Then you get like the Godfather trajectory, where Godfather 3 is the X-Men Origins Wolverine of the Godfather trilogy.
Right.
But I don't know, because maybe just about anything other than a comic book property, a movie like X-Men Origins Wolverine kills that property until reboot time instead of sequel time.
Right.
I think a lot of that really goes down to just Hugh Jackman, to be quite honest. The guy was it was a role that he was born to play. He's just so darn good at it that, like, even when it's dog crap like X-Men Origins Wolverine, people still went to see that movie. That movie made money. Not a ton of money, not like X-Men money, but it made enough money to where they were just like, well, we'll keep around somewhat. And that is all, I believe, all on the back of Hugh Jackman.
And you say it's a role that Hugh Jackman was born to play, but I would argue that Wolverine aesthetic came towards Hugh Jackman more than Hugh Jackman went towards original Wolverine aesthetic. I think if Hugh Jackman had been cast as Iceman, suddenly Iceman would be the most popular mutant. Like I think it doesn't matter where he was cast. The guy has what some people call the old star power.
Yeah.
Which, strangely, Stargirl doesn't have the star power, but still interesting.
Strange enough. But I think that he has that combination that you don't see a lot out of anybody, because to get all of those things is amazing. To be a handsome-looking guy, he is a good actor, and I forgot what my third one was. It just popped out of my brain.
And sing?
Oh, he can exactly. He can dance and sing. Like, he does. Like, it's almost everything he touches turns to gold.
Well, he has the very, very rare, unique ability, right, where he can play someone who you believe could take out a room full of 20 people, but also you believe that guy also could play a closeted homosexual gentleman who's stealing money from the educational board. Like, both of these things are true.
I think if my timeline's accurate, he filmed this movie and Les Mis in the same calendar year.
Probably.
So that's more range than your average.
It's
X-Men
gigantic.
Has.
And
you didn't see what's his name, the guy that played Cyclops. He wasn't making Westworld back then.
No, James Marsden's out. Not back then, but today. I like where his career's kind of gone. He's gotten a lot better, and like I think he's very comfortable with who he is and kind of what his roles are and stuff. I just watched the Sonic movie. He was great in that. A lot of fun, that movie.
Yeah.
Super fun for
but
kids.
You know who would have been better in that? Hugh Jackman.
Oh, well, Jesus.
It'd have been a different movie for sure.
We watched a movie where robots are fighting.
I could believe Hugh Jackman would beat the crap out of Jim Carrey. That much I could truly believe.
Yes.
Just crush his skull like a pimple,
Now,
man.
should we talk about the pathway this movie took to finding James Mangold?
Sure.
Because Darren Aronofsky linked to the Wolverine movie for like 3 years before it came out. I mean, high-profile linkage of Darren Aronofsky to Wolverine. And then that just, I guess he kind of bailed on it, but he bailed on it in a really polite, don't burn the bridges way.
I like Aronofsky because he is also one of those guys that will kind of say yes to the idea of anything. Like if somebody just goes, hey, what do you think about this? He's at least willing to entertain that idea. More often than not, it doesn't come to fruition, but he does like at least exploring those areas, because I remember in film school, like there were two thoughts, because there were two different scripts that were out there. There was Aronofsky's and Nolan's, and they were looking like, oh, which one of these? Maybe we're going to do both of them. Who's to say? What, no one knew what was going to happen at that point. But Aronofsky was going to do kind of a year one sort of deal. And
Is Aronofsky a comic book fan?
He does like comics. The Noah thing that he did actually was, I can't remember the order of it, but there's a comic book that's involved in that he ended up kind of writing and stuff. But so I think,
Are you talking about the illustrated Bible they used to give out in like elementary school?
No. This is specifically an Aronofsky written, Bible program, because apparently, I guess he wrote like had the idea for a Noah comic book when he was 14 or something like that.
I had a lot of great ideas at 14.
You know how you do at 14, and you just go, oh, that sounds like a good
my
one.
character's named Angel Boy. It's nothing like Hellboy.
Nothing.
Yes. Now, Aronofsky, though, he exited this giving the reason that after all the development and really being excited about working with Hugh Jackman, I think Hugh Jackman liked Aronofsky because it shouldn't be a surprise. He's a very important producer on this film.
Sure.
But he said, I don't want to be in Japan for most of the year. Don't want to be away from my family that long, which is, you can't fault a person for that. And then he said, I really do look forward to working with Bryan Singer and Hugh Jackman and Fox on a X-Men property eventually, but just sadly, I can't commit to this one. That is definitely high road exiting a project.
Yeah. But I'm glad Mangold kind of joined in here. And this is like
Now, did you hear the other directors, though, that were considered before they settled on James Mangold?
I'm unaware.
Antoine Fuqua? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. I wouldn't want... I like him. I like a lot of the stuff that he does. Not everything, but enough of the stuff. And I don't know that he's the right guy for this.
Justin Lin?
I mean, it depends on what he wants to do. Because, like, again, he's another one of those guys. It's like he's very specific in what he does. I don't know that this would have been the thing for him. But then again, if you look at
James Mangold,
yeah.
What had he done before this that tells us he'd be good at this? I don't know.
When you watch Girl Interrupted, you were like, oh, that's going to be... or Kate and Leopold. He did...
perfect.
Identity was fantastic. Walk the Line was fantastic. The guy's got a heck of a record, that 3:10 to Yuma. Even Night and Day is...
I love 3:10 to Yuma.
Even Night and Day is like a silly little, Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, rompy sort of thing. But it's a heck of a lot of fun.
That movie's awful.
If what I read was correct, and you never know what's correct and what's apocryphal, but it was 3:10 to Yuma that Jackman really liked that got Mangold the job.
Well, I could see that. I mean, it was the thing I think that really turned him, and people were like, oh boy, okay, this guy is a little bit more serious than we were all thinking. And then when he goes in and does this, and then it follows up with Logan, and then Ford v Ferrari, the guy's just got like an almost flawless directing career here.
Now, I'll give you one more name that was interested in this film until he found out they were going to book like 6 months for shooting, and that's Guillermo del Toro.
That's another one that he kind of gets involved in a lot of things, or at least will take a meeting to just be like, yeah, I'll contemplate the idea of making a Doctor Strange movie or one of the Hobbit movies or something like that.
Now, from multiple interviews that I've heard, he seems really not interested in long-term commitments, though. Like, he was so thrilled to get out of The Hobbit because it was going to keep him tied up for like 2.5 years. Like, that was his only complaint, was how long of a commitment it was. It was kind of funny to read those interviews.
Yeah, but
he has the thing that a lot of creatives have, right? Where he has a lot of ideas, but he doesn't have a lot of commitment to those ideas. So it seems like he loves pitch meetings and he loves taking meetings for people with their ideas, but he doesn't like being in something that's going to take 1.5 years for him to get to the final.
See, I'm the opposite. I got no ideas, but I love commitment.
I'll be there.
Don't
Your
even have to
wife
tell me
must-
what the podcast is about. I'll do it for at least 6 years.
And sometimes you don't even have to tell him what it's about, and he'll just sign
showed
up for
one
it.
day. And you told me, okay.
Oh, this
you're
is a
in
full
this.
time thing. Oh,
All right,
7 years later.
the courtesy to tell you no. But I think that he is one of those guys that could probably be helped a little bit by kind of forcing him to do something, if you know what I mean. Just like,
Yeah, but
maybe
who's going to force Del Toro to do anything at this point?
I know that's what's kind of sad is I think he should force himself to do those things and just
Actually,
be like,
is he married? If he is, I know who can force him to do
I
something.
think he is.
Yeah, maybe his wife needs to make him do a long-term movie.
We'll see. I don't know. But Mangold for this, this movie feels like that spot where comic book movies, at least in my opinion, see if you think if this is different, but it feels like this was starting to tip that point into kind of more of the comic book movie landscape that we know today. Because it still feels like it's got a little bit in the past. It feels a little X-Men-y, obviously Wolverine notwithstanding, but you get what I mean by X-Men-y with the villains and all that kind of stuff, and a little bit more over to the what would eventually kind of become Logan. More of a drama that happens to take place in this universe that has all these fantastical things in it. This feels like that movie that's the transition point from that old to kind of newer.
It
comic
definitely
movie.
feels like it's easing us into a little bit higher form of art from these movies. Going from what the X-Men had kind of been up until this point, it's still not quite to where it would be with Logan, but it's like definitely easing us that way.
Now, what I did like in this, I like the opening where he saves the guy from the atomic blast and everything, and to me it was just like this little bit right here is better than all of that Origins movie.
well, you're forgetting now the
Got to compare opening to
title-
opening.
Yeah. The opening to Wolverine Origins is amazing.
If it was
the only part of that movie that's any good.
Yeah, but that's literally like a minute 46. There's nothing like if that would have been 20 minutes, I think I'd agree with that statement. But like it was so truncated that it was practically a trailer for the movie that never happened.
But I did think this was a pretty good opening.
Yeah.
I don't know how everybody felt about this opening. Like, I don't know if there were a bunch of people, the same folks that complained about Indiana Jones going in the refrigerator to blast at Los Alamos or wherever he was. I wonder if some of those same people, particularly in Japan, the place where this actually happened, might have felt like this downplayed the, as long as you got a piece of metal and a mutant over you, you get a little burn on your face and that's all. I'm not claiming to be an expert on what the effects of an atomic bomb are, but
That's not what you said before we started this show today.
Call me Captain Bomb, the atomic man. But I don't remember hearing any kind of pushback about this intro.
Well,
and
there's a reason why you're not hearing any pushback. It's because if this movie was a movie that people adored and like really, really loved the Wolverine, then there would be the eventual pushback to people who have certain nitpicks and problems with a movie. But because take the Dark Knight, like the Dark Knight's a perfect example of this, where that movie is beloved, and then a year or two later, people are like, well, Nolan doesn't really do a great job filming action. Like, I don't know what's happening in the van, like stuff like that,
Yeah.
And that would have ended up happening with the Wolverine if there were people who were just saying, like, this is the greatest piece of superhero fiction we've seen in a movie in 20 years or whatever.
And I'm also going to say something else that might sound strange, but when it comes to comics and Logan lore, I really love Wolverine in Japan. And even though this movie is like 90% takes place in Japan, it doesn't feel very much like Wolverine to me. Like, in the comics, he'd be constantly walking around in a kimono and stuff like that.
Yeah. I hate the Wolverine Japan stuff. I hate
it. You may not like a big part of the Frank Miller aesthetic, though.
No, you're right. I don't. But the one of the problems that I've always had with Wolverine is that when he is in Japan, he is the white savior to all of the people of Japan every time he goes there, and that makes me insane.
That's true. That's going to happen.
For me, it's more like Oh, more guys with swords, huh? Well, okie dokie. I guess I suppose he's gonna. Oh, there you go. Yeah, he sliced through those swords because those swords aren't animanium. Well, there you have it. Look at those people. They got all chopped up. There you go. Okay. I mean, that's what it seems like to me half the time.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, so he doesn't have a whole lot of really tough people to fight a supervillain, for heaven's sake. You know what I mean?
That's why you got Silver Samurai.
Yeah. Listen, I'll at least give you that. And in this movie, that was about as cool as I could, have thought about it when I was a kid.
Yeah, it looked good to me on screen, though. You got to wait an awful long time to get it, and also in a post Iron Man world, it starts to feel a little bit like, oh, is this just Jeff Bridges again?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always gonna. Maybe not always. I hope that's not true, but it feels like it's always kind of leaning towards something like that every now and then with with one of the superhero movies. You're gonna toss some dice,
and
that's
really
gonna
shouldn't
be there.
matter when you're inside this weaponized power armor. It shouldn't matter that like the least intimidating member of the cast is in there, but it does.
And this 80-year-old man is fighting you in a. Sure, he's got a giant robot suit, but. At least they had the common courtesy to have him say, like, it made me strong. Okay, good. All right. At least you can, it's not like my muscles are powering this machine.
Just look at it this way. If this were an anime, it would be an 11-year-old girl in the costume, and she would also be Wolverine's love interest. So let's be glad we don't have that.
A lot of backflips going on for no real good reason.
Now, the bear, man, the whole little subplot right after the Japanese part, and we get to see Logan looking like a caveman living out in the woods, and he gets angry that his friend, the bear, I really enjoyed that part, too. I thought it was going pretty good here for the first two segments.
Yeah, again, that's something that we didn't see a lot in these kinds of movies was like, it's not per se like an environmental message, but it is like, hey, this guy cares about stuff. He wants to be one with nature. He does want to be left alone, and he doesn't like it when people are upsetting the stasis of the world, and I like that.
And it's always, they used the same thing in the first X-Men movie. They probably used it in X-Men Origins. I don't remember. But just having like the rural Canadian or rural Alaska, wherever like rugged honky tonk bar that Logan goes in and beats everybody up. That's always an easy crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I love the poison arrow in the hand and everything. It's like, oh, I don't poison my arrows. Okay, then you won't mind me leaving this in, huh? It's like, oh, my gosh, that's so badass. So cool.
And then Yukio shows up, as the mechanism to get him to Japan. And I kind of like this movie version of Yukio compared to the Mark Silvestri or Frank Miller drawn comic book version.
Is it just her hair that drives me nuts? Is that what does it? Because I don't dislike the actress. I don't dislike what she's doing. I think the hair is the thing that just, I don't know, maybe it irks me.
I like the really unique look. You're not confusing Yukio with any other
the bangs on that girl.
That much is true.
Somebody needs to talk to her. My God.
What's wrong with them?
Oh my God. If you've got a head shaped like that, you don't have very short bangs. You just don't do it.
The sad thing is somebody probably got paid $1,200 to cut her hair that way.
Oh, I'm quite sure. More than that, even.
Yeah, probably. That's their daily rate over there. More than likely.
Yeah, I would have done it for $50.
$50, and I could do it half as good. Sure, the red won't be as vibrant, but it'll look good. But I do kind of like her being that the clairvoyant and everything. That's like, oh, I can kind of see the future. Not really, though.
It's not just like general clairvoyance. She has one ability and one ability only, and that's the ability to foresee someone's death.
Right, in as much as death, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know that it has a lot of applicability. It's not something from the comics. It's something just kind of introduced in the movie. But I'm really kind of liking it when Yukio shows up. She's a really interesting looking actor. I kind of like what's happening here. There's, this is the callback to Japan. But then when he gets to Japan, I feel like this movie just comes to a standstill for about 30 minutes.
Oh,
it's longer than 30 minutes, I would say.
Oh,
it feels
this movie takes for the parts that you guys just mentioned. Those parts are pretty great. Yeah, the bear, the beating up the rednecks in the bar, all of that's great. but there's no way this passes the phone test. This doesn't even pass the chores test, this movie.
Man, it's a bad sign when I get excited about the hospital bed that Ichiro is in, because at least it's something interesting to look at. You know how that hospital bed is like all those individual little cylinders that lift him up.
And all you're doing is thinking, like, is it controlled by his mind? Is there like a little thing in it, little control in his hand or something? How does it know to do these things? It's magic.
And, you know, I subscribe to the Sean Kovac's school of not really caring much about dreams or dream sequence stuff. Kind of weird and out of place to me.
Like, by the way, someone who shall remain unnamed let me know on instant message this week. They were very happy that I said no one cares about your dreams, Adam, last week.
Good.
I wasn't telling big stories. It's just a bullet point. So I understand and I agree. A bullet point is different from a story. That's all I'm saying.
I just wonder if like, what's her name? Famke Janssen. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Famke.
What?
Famke.
Okay, well, I don't know if like maybe Famke really needed some work and begged him to put her in, or somebody
look, man, she's a classy lady. It's the thing, like, because you know it's hard to remember now because there's been 17 movies since this movie, with X-Men in it. But like for a long time, there was that unrequited love thing between Jean and Logan, but. And you know it's probably one of those things where it's like, you know, we're blood and guts all the time and all this stuff. Let's have a lady of class in our movie for 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I just didn't enjoy those parts.
Nor did I. I hate that stuff.
And what makes it even worse is he has like the dream about Jean, then Jean turns into Viper, and then Viper kisses him, and then it seems like she disappears when he wakes up. But then later, when he's losing his powers and it looks like maybe he has been poisoned, I'm like, is she like Freddy Krueger? Did she go into the dream? What do you call it? The dream sphere and infect him that way? Like, I never quite understood. And, you know, this is the third time I've seen this movie, and I still don't quite think they communicated very clearly what happened there.
Bruce, well, how does a robot spider wrapping itself around Wolverine's heart take away his power?
And also, seriously, he is dreaming that she kisses him, and he jumps up and the claws come out and she's not there. Can she disappear? Is she suddenly like is she Nightcrawler also? I don't know. It just bugged me because then I'm like watching him and I'm wondering, is he, you know, is it like the Spider-Man thing where he thinks he's poisoned and that's why he's losing his power? And then when the robot spider shows up at his heart, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how a kiss really gives a spider access to your mediastinum like that.
And here's the thing, I could look past all of that. If the actress who was playing Viper was good in the role, I hate this actress. I hate her.
I like to stay away from negativity, but I don't enjoy that actress at all.
I will say I agree with that. That being said, I kind of like the shedding of the skin effect and everything.
That part's neat, but that has nothing to do with the actor.
No. That's got nothing to do with the character actor or anything. It was part of the thing that looked cool.
I'm a little disappointed in the shedding of the skin, though, because when she shed the skin, I thought it would accomplish something, but she could have just taken her wig off. Like, she sheds the skin and looks exactly the same underneath. Like, she could have at least had some scales or done something cool, but she sheds her skin, and the only thing that changes is her wig is gone.
Yeah, but she gets rid of all the old skin, which I did like that. Like her skin, when it goes into like molting mode, goes into the more lizardy looking thing, and then that's what you scrape off. I thought that was at least an interesting idea. But you're right; does it change a lot? No.
I wanted it the other way around. I wanted her to molt off the skin and look more lizardy underneath, and instead it did the opposite of that.
That's a lot more makeup.
That's all she did.
A lot of work. Have you guys ever seen the little outtake that wasn't in this movie that happens? I'm skipping ahead to the end here, and we'll come back to all this, but it just happened to cross my mind. At the end on the plane where she gives him a briefcase, did you guys ever see that little moment?
No.
So there's a deleted scene where they're on the plane at the end, And honestly, this should have been in the movie, and everyone would have stood up and cheered and been like, "That's the greatest thing ever! What in the hell?"
Oh, is this the old costume?
Yes, he opens up this briefcase, and there's the old costume in there, the old, the brown and gold looking one.
Yeah, the tan, and I call it old, but actually the blue and yellow is the old one. But
yeah,
when they brought that back, it made the tan and brown one feel old.
It
but
does.
That's the one everybody loved in the 80s.
But that was such a like, and it had the gloves and everything in there, and you were just like, oh my god, dude! If we can come back in the next movie, have Wolverine in a proper Wolverine costume, oh, you talk about insane!
Yeah,
and it never really happened.
Now, how thankful were you guys when they started fighting on that bullet train? And it's like, thank Christ, something's happening now. Like, they're up on top of the train. And to be honest, like, compared to some really good fight scenes like what we watched not that long ago with the Matrix on the highway, I think that was Matrix 2.
Yeah.
This is not all that great of a moving object fight scene, but my goodness, was I not happy for it, because this was moving pretty darn slow, but they got on the train.
And it has the classic kind of Looney Tunes where somebody just has their head up, gets it, goes down real quick, and the other person gets bonked with the thing that's coming their direction. Perfect, classic.
And they do a lot of fun stuff by like flying free through the air, then coming back down and latching into the metal on the surface of the train.
Oh yeah, his giant kind of berserker lunge going right towards that guy, as kind of just jumps in the air, and as the plane or train's coming down, he comes up towards him. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they did some awesome little effects
but
up there.
There's so much, but it's so CGI that it's just
and
you're watching.
This
like,
was your big midpoint set piece, from standard Hollywood kind of action movie template, and it wasn't that big, but man, it seemed big after like slapping myself to stay awake for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people just talking about, hey, how you doing? Thanks for being on coming
so
to
your
Japan.
father's leaving you all the money.
This is
what
not
about
gonna
him?
be good. Well, what's going on next? Is there going to be a meeting that's coming up soon? Because I want to be in on this. What's that now? I'm sorry, huh? Train fight.
To Japan. I've never been to Japan, but if I ever do, I so want to check out one of these love hotels. And not because I'm up for any hanky-panky or anything. These things just look so weird and cool. And like, if we had them here, I would stay in them every time I travel.
I've seen some videos,
and
they are strange. They're very, very strange. And yeah, it's
Are they as clean as the one depicted in this movie?
Well, here's the thing. The ones, when you see it, they're never really lit all that well, so a lot is to be left to the imagination, but I would say no overall. That's not one of these places that you'd go to. I think you would think it'd be fun, Bruce. You'd go as a lark. You'd get in that room. And you ever been to those, just any hotel room where you walk in and you go, oh, this was a mistake? I think that's how you would feel with this one.
Down. I'd ask for the mission to Mars, and then I'd abort before launch or whatever.
It's a mission to Mars. It's the Brian De Palma film, everybody.
That'd be great.
It's just a lot of talking.
I want the Mars Needs Mom suite, please.
Why not?
So, guys, I can I hijack this show for a second?
Please.
So, Hugh Jackman has been in 9 movies as Wolverine.
Sheesh.
9 different movies. And what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to run down the list of movies that he's in playing Wolverine. And because it feels like he's not in a lot of good movies as Wolverine. You know what I mean? It's like maybe 50-50, but we should check that out right now. Are you guys up for that?
Let's do it.
I'm up for it.
All right. So the first one he shows up in is X-Men, X-Men.
Plain old X-Men.
And he's great in that.
Thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So is that a good movie? The first X-Men movie?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It would
Right.
fall
So that's
in a good
one.
category.
Okay. One for Hugh. So then he's in X2, which up until that, for years, that was the best X-Men movie, X2.
Yes. Some people used to, in its day, I mean, it doesn't hold up now, but in its day, some would argue it was the best comic book movie.
By the way, so far you can go back, and you may actually be able to listen to all of these in HMP format. So keep that in mind, everybody. We got a back catalog, so we've done these so far. Go ahead.
Then there's X3, X-Men Last Stand. That is a bad movie to me.
Yes. Generally, like general consensus, people don't like that movie.
Yeah.
And I agree with general consensus.
2v1.
Right. Then there's Wolverine. Everybody hates.
Origins is bad. Mm-hmm.
Unless they're Blob fans.
Well, that without saying.
You're the only Blob fan. You still hate that movie, right?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Right. And then this is where it gets a little bit like interesting, because now we're in X-Men First Class, and I like X-Men First Class, but not everybody does. What do you guys feel about that?
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I like it, but I like it less than most people who like it seem to like it. Does that make any sense at all? Like the people that like
you
it
don't have the joy that Adam and I do watching that movie.
Yeah, but I still like it. It's just I like, for me, I prefer Days of Future Past.
And I'll say
Me
this.
too.
I'll say this
Me too,
though.
all day.
Drops
because I have some people that don't.
best single drop F-bomb in a PG-13 movie. I think
Without a doubt, not even close.
I don't even think you can hang with that. So, all right, 3B2.
Then we've got the Wolverine, which we probably shouldn't.
We'll hold our hands on that
spoil
one.
The end, but
yeah, we'll have to leave that as a question mark for now. So we're 3-2, and we'll call it a draw for now.
Right.
Sure. We're 3-2 so far. Then there's Days of Future Past, which is my favorite X-Men movie.
Yeah, mine too.
Still good stuff.
Okay. Then there is X-Men Apocalypse, which I absolutely hate that.
Well, that goes in the turd category. We know that.
And the Wolverine cameo is really forced in that one too.
Yes.
Like no offense there, Hugh Jackman, but I would say that's his least enjoyable performance.
Better than that, even Hugh Jackman can't save that movie.
Yeah.
And that's saying something.
And then the last one is Logan. He is Logan, and I love Logan.
That's at least 5 in the good column. Saving this last one, which may go in the pile. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah,
five,
so 5 to 3 with one out there.
3 on the amount of movies that are good Wolverine movies versus bad Wolverine movies.
That's not a bad batting average, especially when you consider how many there are. It's not like, we've got 2 Hellboy films. All right, which one's better than the other one? It's like there's 9 performances here. It's a lot of stuff.
There aren't a lot of people that have played the same comic book character in 9 different movies, are there?
It's true.
Even not a comic book movie, but even old Dominic Toretto ain't in all 9 of them Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the MCU and you got so many like small appearances of Nick Fury and stuff that, right. The MCU, they've bound to have some people with more than 9 movies now.
Sure.
But this isn't the MCU, so that makes it a little more interesting that he's done 9 and spread out over, what were they spread out over? 20 years. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And strangely, he kept getting in better shape.
I was about to say, this movie, he's not even in his final form.
No.
Like, you wait till Logan and it's just like, sweet Lord, what is this 60-year-old man on? He's amazing.
It's like a tale of 2 humans, me and Hugh Jackman in 1999, not nearly as far apart as we are now.
Somebody just kept going.
He went in one direction, I went in the other.
But at some point, those paths crossed.
However, I did find a really, really good picture of Russell Crowe on the set of Gladiator compared to Russell Crowe on the set of that movie that came out like this past fall in Tank. Well, I don't even remember what it's called, but boy, now that is a Bruce Leslie trajectory right there.
I love fat Russell Crowe. I think he's more fun than fit Russell Crowe ever was. I think the same thing with what's his name from the 300 there, Gerard Butler. I like fat Gerard Butler way better. It's just they're I don't know, something about those guys just kind of swelling up just makes them a heck of a lot more fun as actors.
Yeah, I've always liked Russell Crowe because we've been on the same trajectory physically. So I always look at him and I see I'm not alone in this world.
Well, he's got an Oscar and you've got, eye stuff.
I got some Oscar Mayer in the fridge.
But this movie is okay. And I, like I said, I feel like when I was watching it, it was that we're in the middle time here where we're not quite at the super serious, comic book movie that feels like it could be, an Oscar-winning contender here. And we're still not quite out of that comic booky silliness kind of phase as well.
We're
it's starting to have its cake and
sliding
eat
the
it
bar.
too. Yeah.
I want to talk about the thing that kills this movie for me.
Let's hear it.
Because The movie is, I'm completely and utterly indifferent towards it until we get to this moment. It's the moment where Wolverine's about to fall off some cliff, and then the Silver Samurai grabs him by the arms.
Yeah.
And then the Silver Samurai's hand opens up over Logan's hand, and then injects him into where his claws used to be.
Yeah, into the bone marrow.
Into the bone marrow. It makes me enraged when I see that.
Why?
Because the amount of precognition you would need to have in order for all of those things to happen, to get to the moment where you're drilling through into where his claws used to be, there is so many things that need to happen in order for you to get to that point.
You lined up all the stars in such a way that you knew at some point during our fight, I will have his hands and they will be at mine. And this is a specific point where I should put these little drills on the end of my claws so it will go into him and take his stuff. Are you kidding me?
Let's think about this, though. This movie takes place in 2013. Maybe it takes place a couple years in the future. So let's say 2015. And we know that this fellow, this Ichiro, was a full-grown man in World War II in 1945. So he's got to be
100.
90 plus, 90 to 100 years old. So he's had a lot of time to think this through. So maybe that suit was capable of all kinds of crazy situations that didn't pop up. So when this one popped up, it looks like he'd planned perfectly, but maybe that suit was ready for like 50 to 60 different scenarios where he would get into the bone marrow.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
So
I don't know why I'm defending it so vehemently, but for some reason I feel like I had to.
It's the wannabe mad scientist in you, Bruce.
Is this just a devil's advocate that you're playing here?
I think so. Because honestly, I wouldn't have argued in favor of this for my own benefit.
It makes me so angry when I see it that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done. I don't have to even pretend anymore.
I will.
I was like, that's exactly what I knew was going to happen when that happened. No, it's
I'll
not.
say this though, at least they didn't have
cliche.
something that was like, this is what you've got to do. Like they didn't mandate it ahead of time to like, you got to make sure that you grab both of his hands and chop his claws off so you can like, at least they didn't give us exposition like that. So
Also,
I got to give him credit there.
I got so many other things that was bugging me that I guess that part about how perfectly everything had to line up didn't bug me too much, because I was already bugged like, what kind of sword exactly is this that cuts through these adamantium claws? Like there's a question there that wasn't answered appropriately. And what is the magic about his bone marrow that transfers his immortality? Like that didn't make any sense to me at all either. Plus, like, you know, people actually give bone marrow transplants in the real world and they don't like lose all their abilities provided by their bone marrow. They retain them while sharing with someone else. So that bugged me. And then, also when Wolverine's digging the robot spider out of his heart, did that gross you out, Sean?
No, because it's so unbelievably stupid.
Good, because you get grossed out sometimes. But
I do.
The whole time I'm watching that, I'm just thinking, what a horrible angle of approach he's chosen to try to get to his heart.
Yeah, it's like, go underneath, buddy. There's more room up
and he's
there.
got it's fluoroscopy guided, so he really knows how he's going. And like to go in through your abdomen and up through the it's a terrible approach, man. Go between a couple of ribs or something there, Wolvie.
I did like the when he was kind of, taking his essence, as it were, the kind of de-aging on his face and everything. I like that.
Yeah.
Then when it goes back, just kind of quickly ages him again. I thought that was like a really nice touch.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Again, you got to look for in this kind of movie. There's enough where you just got to go, oh, okay, there's a little piece I liked. Oh, there's a little piece I liked over there, because it doesn't all add up. But I think a lot of that really does come from the graveyard that is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
And this is the movie where Hugh Jackman got workout advice from Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, just do
That's
all
why
the
he's
stuff.
bulked up so much here. But apparently his advice from Dwayne Johnson was to eat 6,000 calories a day for 6 months. Got to tell you, I've tried that. I still don't look like Dwayne Johnson. There must be some part I was missing there.
Yeah,
well, you can see the roadmap coming in Hugh Jackman's arms and stuff because he's got those massive veins in this movie.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of those where like, all right, how long we got till we go? All right, let me start in on these push-ups. Let me get all this kind of,
I don't want to besmirch anyone's character, but those veins have a little human growth hormone look to them.
No.
I have no doubt about that.
You mean this man that can go from like, $180 to like, 230 pure muscle back and forth all the time?
For a 50-year-old to gain more muscle mass than they've ever had in their life.
10 years ago, he's shopping for Danskins. This year, he's
I think this might have been
through a hefty tea.
I think this right after this is when he made Film 43, and he didn't actually have to use a prosthetic because of the side effects of the growth hormone on his chin testicles.
Poor guy. So before we get down to our final grade and everything, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how does this movie relate 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone? I think I have an idea.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. James Mangold. Your directing career is a schizophrenic roller coaster of movies that are some of the best movies anyone's ever seen. Your Logan, your 3:10 to Yuma, your Walk the Line. Or you make movies that make you want to remove your own eyes in the off chance that it'll make you forget you ever saw the movie, like Night and Day and Kate and Leopold. It's hard to figure out what sort of director you are. I mean, when you're watching something like a Walt Becker movie, you know exactly what you can expect. What's that, James Mangold? You don't know who Walt Becker is? Well, Walt Becker directed Wild Hogs, followed that up with Old Dogs, finished trifecta with Alvin and the Chipmunks, Road Chip. See? When you're watching a Walt Becker movie, you know what you're getting. But who knows with James Mangold? He directed Ford versus Ferrari, which some folks don't like, yet I love dearly. And he directed what, in my opinion, is the career totem for Sylvester Stallone, called Copland. Before Copland, Stallone's public persona is that he's past his prime, he's hard to work with, he's a sucky baby who made unfunny comedies and action movies that sucked, except Demolition Man. Demolition Man is awesome. But after Copland, he becomes a Hollywood elder statesman, a good businessman, and a hardworking dreamer who happened to beat the odds. And to continue the two-faced movie making of James Mangold theme, Copland is a good movie. It's not a game changer. It's not something that's going to change your mind about cop movies, but it's good. And it's got good people in it. And you know what? Stallone is good in it too. But you know what's not very good? The Wolverine. And there you have it, HMPers and Dingalingers. This week's Stallone connection is none other than James Mangold. Adam and Bruce, this is the 331st episode of this bit, and still no word from Sylvester Stallone.
Darn shame. My favorite line in Copland, because it was played in all the trailers, is Robert De Niro going, "You had your chance and you blew it." It's so good. That's the best line reading in that entire movie. It's filled with a lot of good line readings from a lot of great character actors. If you haven't checked out Copland, my goodness, do yourself a favor.
Very good movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time where we break down our review of this, and we don't have letters, we don't have stars. That's a lot of nonsense. No. We have our own nonsense. It's called the Robin rating system. What's the Robin rating system consist of, you might ask? Well, I can help you out with that. Why don't you go over to our subreddit and check it out, reddit.com/r/HeroMoviePodcast. It's right there at the top of the screen, and join up, man. Bruce, where does the Wolverine from 2013 fall in the Robin rating system for you?
I've seen this movie 3 times and have never stuck around for the credit scene. So that kind of says what a weird movie this is for me, because I liked it enough.
After credit scene in this movie?
There's a mid-credit scene, is what I read. But,
what is it?
Professor X and Magneto meet Logan at the airport when he gets back from Japan.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. I didn't watch it this time, but I remember that.
Which Professor X is it?
It's Patrick Stewart.
He kind of freezes everything and stuff. It's actually it's kind of cool.
I have seen that. I've seen that.
So I've seen the movie. I like the movie enough that I've watched it 3 times. You know, at least one of those 3 times was just for the heck of it. You know, the first time was curiosity. The third time for the show. But there was a time in between where I was like, you know, it'd be a good thing to do for 2 hours. Let's watch the Wolverine. But I've always been glad when it's over all 3 times. So I don't think it's downright awful. Like, I think it's better than Hellstrom that we talked about not too long ago. So
Lord, come on now.
I think I gave Hellstrom a Damian Wayne, so I've got to give this at least a Damian Wayne. It's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. I hope I didn't give that a good rating. I don't know. I'm going to give this a Damian Wayne, a very confused Damian Wayne.
You know what? With your with you and the Blob, though, you might have given X-Men Origins Wolverine a bump just on account of that alone.
And the opening and the sweet cowboy hat that Will.I.am has.
Oh, Lordy. Sean, what do you got?
Here is the fact of truth here. We had no problem talking about the terrible Justice League sitcom that we made that was made in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
We had absolutely no problem talking about that thing. And it's like 24 minutes long. We are really looking to fill that time up talking about a movie that feels like it might be 4.5 hours. I think it's over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we are having a hard time coming up with topics to talk about with this movie. That makes it Jason Todd. This movie is utterly forgettable. There are good parts. You know what? It's not a Jason Todd. I take it back. It's Stephanie Brown. Movies of Stephanie Brown. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's the worst kind of movie there is. And I got that from Adam.
Thank you. Finally, I'm starting to get a little bit of recognition right here.
So it's utterly forgettable. I can't remember anything about it, and I just watched it again this morning, except for a few things. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's not great. I think I'm just kind of teetering on the edge there. I'm going to go Damien, but only just so. Because everything that you said is correct. It is the lesser of those movies, and I really do think that having this be right after X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was just the bottom of the barrel for any of those Wolverine things, this is a step above that. And I think at the time it was just like, oh my God, this is so much better than the last thing. It just, yes. After you've been kicked in the crotch, you'd rather be patted on the head. You know what I'm saying?
So with all of that being said, now that we know where we are, is the Wolverine in the good part of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine career or the bad part?
Overall, I got to go with my gut here and put it in the bad category.
I can't argue. I can't even play devil's advocate, even though like part of me wants to say it's a draw. But in the movie world, in the entertainment world, if you can't make up your mind, it's not that good.
So so we're 5-4.
That's not bad.
5 good movies, 4 bad ones is Wolverine.
Listen, and you know the appearance was so small in First Class, you can almost nullify that, and it's 4-4.
But like Adam. It's the best use of an F word in like 30 years in a movie.
Yeah.
And it's just the entire theater just erupted with laughter and applause. It was just like, it was the highlight of the film in a film that's got a lot of good highlights in it. It's a good film. Yeah. And to have that moment be the moment where everybody was just like, oh, that's the thing you talked about when the credits hit. It's just like, dude, Wolverine showing up was amazing, right? Yes. And so I think in that case, you got to count it.
Yeah. 5-4.
Not too shabby. Well, next week, everybody, we've got a little thing called Thanksgiving here in America coming up, and we'd like to give thanks all the time. First of all, thank you for listening to this show. Thank you for rating us on iTunes, and thank you for supporting us at patreon.com/HMP. There you get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, Dinger Zone. And but next week, Bruce, what else are we going to be thankful for? What's the movie we're talking about next week, Bruce?
Solomon Kane.
There you go. I don't know what it's about, so I can't pitch it.
Yeah, it's a Puritan who fights evil.
Oh, well, that old story. You've heard it a million times, but have you heard it on HMP? I think not. Well, we'll do that next week. In the meantime, Sean, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Why don't you go to The Mandalorian 30 Questions, where every week we review each new episode of The Mandalorian, which is easily, and it's not even close, my favorite show on television.
It's pretty wild and crazy. Do it up, everybody. Bruce, what else?
You can go to listen to The Mandalorian 30 Questions.
Yeah.
And is that what you just said, Sean?
No, yeah, you know what?
Good.
Go ahead and you
Good.
talk about the Mandalorian some more.
Okay, yeah, because I had to check a text from work. The Mandalorian 30 Questions, where we watch each and every episode of The Mandalorian, and we ask each other what happened 10 times apiece.
And I would also like to talk about the Mandalorian 30 Questions. If you can find internet.
Go on.
I hear this show has the 3 best hosts the internet done ever asked to have, who ask 30 questions every single show. And you know what? They're all smart and amazing and genius. And that's what you get over at Mandalorian 30 Questions. Why are you still here? Go to Mandalorian 30 Questions, people. That is it. Join us next week when we're talking whatever this Procter & Gamble movie is Bruce is talking about. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
You talk about you can't, baby. You just